We are back with the Smart Driving Cars podcast. Thanks for taking the time with us. This edition is sponsored by the Smart ETF's Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. For more information, head to motoetf.com. Technical support is provided by CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. I'm Fred Fishkin, along with the Faculty Chair of Autonomous Vehicle Engineering at Princeton University, Alain Kornhauser. Hi, Alain.
Hi, good morning, Fred.
And joining us from Sweden once again is consultant and publisher of The Dispatcher, Michael Sena. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Fred. Hello, Alan. Great to be here.
Good afternoon, I guess there, right?
Yes, it's afternoon.
Before we get started, we want to share this message from CARTS and the Princeton Smart Driving Cars Summit. For years now, companies big and small have been investing billions in building vehicles capable of driving themselves. The advancements have been great. The testing has been impressive. And now it's time to take the technology and all that has been learned and put it to use in places where it can do the most good, providing mobility, life-changing mobility, for those who have had limited options at best. Trenton Moves will provide safe, equitable, affordable, and sustainable high-quality mobility through the deployment of 100 autonomous vehicles throughout the state capital. It will be the first large-scale urban transit system in America to be based entirely on self-driving shuttles. A first in using the technology where it can do the most good. 70% of Trenton's households have limited access to a single car or no access at all. The state, the city, and the community, teachers, students, young and old, are all part of the Trenton Moves effort and planning, and it will be a model to build on for many others in New Jersey and beyond. Join us at the 5th Annual Princeton Smart Driving Car Summit, June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, to learn more and be a part of the next step in providing mobility for all. Visit cartsmobility.com for more information and register today. The June issue of The Dispatcher is out, and in the lead article, Michael, you're taking a critical look at NHTSA, NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's new car assessment program. And you were motivated here by some comments from those who had started the program, 40 years ago?
Well, as I said in the opening paragraph, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people who are looking at this and saying, we've got to stop this guy. And he's gone overboard. He's criticizing the one program, the one thing that the government has been doing related to cars that really is useful for consumers. I mean, the new car assessment program has been used. There are 5 stars, and the information that's being provided to consumers, people really, they like it. They feel that it's useful. Why is he criticizing it? Because when you begin to read the article, you understand that the critical look means that I'm taking a critical look at the program and saying, this probably never should have started. And at this point, we should find another way of achieving the goal that it was set up to achieve in another way. Okay, so why am I saying this? What happened? The new car assessment program started during the administration of Jimmy Carter. It was initiated by the director administrator of NHTSA, Joan Claybrook, and the purpose was to provide information to consumers on the safety of cars. So when we think of the new car assessment program, we think of stars. It's got 5 stars. A car has been evaluated by NCAP, and it gets 5 stars or 4 stars, or if it's really a junk, it gets 1 star or no star. But what I've tried to say here is the information that's being provided to consumers is very good. they get the best possible information about what happens in case of a crash. But there are two issues that I take with this whole program. First, with NCAP, Joan Claybrook and those around her who set this program up, and all of those who have continued it since it was established in 1979, have created another set of standards to which the cars that are tested must either satisfy or hopefully satisfy, on top of the federal motor vehicle safety standards. They have created, NCAP has created an alternative set of standards which the car manufacturers, if they want to get 5 stars or 4 stars, they have to follow. And those standards are different. It doesn't matter whether there are more of them in the VSS versus in NCAP. Those standards in NCAP are different from those in the federal motor vehicle safety standards, which means that if a car company has to meet the FMVSS standards in order for it to be put on the road. Now remember, there's no testing agency. NHTSA isn't testing every car like we do in Europe. Every car in Europe, before it's put on the road, goes through a component and whole vehicle testing process. There are testing agencies that test the entire vehicle. So that doesn't occur in the United States. But every car is tested by every manufacturer in its own laboratories, in its own testing facilities, to ensure that they are self-certifying. They're saying, we tested the car according to the FMVSS. It meets the FMVSS, therefore allow us to put it on the road. And NHTSA says, okay, we believe you, you've tested it, now you're allowed to put your car on the road. That's the difference between Europe and the United States. But if you want your car to get 5 stars, you deliver the car. Actually, and NHTSA buys the car. They buy it off the lot. They take it to their lab. They do the tests. And if it fails, you've got a big egg on your face. But your car is still on the road, allowed on the road, because it's past the FMVSS. Now, there's an old saying too. It was Louis Kahn, the famous architect, great American architect, said 2 gardens is no garden. It means if you've got 2 gardens, you don't know which one you're going to sit in. You know, the sun is over here, yeah, but you have furniture, extra furniture. Make one nice garden. And what I'm saying is make one nice set of standards, and we have them. If when Joan Claybrook and her sidekick, Jack Gillis, put this whole thing together, if they had said, you know, these standards, we get the FMV, it's too slow. We need to have the car moving faster so that we can really get information. No, instead of doing that, instead of changing FMVSS, so we'll do our own. And you keep doing that FMVSS stuff, and you can put your car on the road, but we're going to do our own. And it just continued. More and more of the requirements in the NCAP were changed in order to provide better information. And my point is, there was nothing preventing her or NHTSA at the time. It wasn't like you had to have an act of Congress to change the standard. You want to change the standard? Change it. That's what they've done. They've increased the severity. They've added new standards. They put in more information to provide better information out, rather than developing something that's separate. And it's continued. You know, NHTSA has just put out a piece of information or request for information to enhance, to improve, to increase all of the information in NCAP. Don't do that. Go back to FMVSS, change everything that's in there, add what's needed, and use that in order to provide the information to every customer who's buying a car in the United States. Now, I'm not just saying this for the US, because we have the same problem here in Europe. We have the type approval. The standards in the type approval are the same for all the cars. You test a car for any market in one country, and that the car can be sold everywhere. But NCAP, just like in the United States was first, by the way. NCAP started in the United States, but it's now the Euro NCAP, we have China NCAP, Japan NCAP, and so on. And those are separate. They're not the same in order to increase the possibilities. Now, I haven't gone into the same detail with Euro NCAP as I did with the US, but in a nutshell, that's my point. So beat me up if you like, but that's what I think we should be doing. We should not have two sets of frameworks or multiple frameworks. We have one good one. And eventually, hopefully, rather than having the car companies testing their cars, we can have laboratories like we have in Europe doing the testing, so that all the cars are tested in an equivalent way and same type. But we do have a set of standards in the United States, and that's the federal motor vehicle safety standards.
All right, Michael, let me beat you up like I always like to beat you up, if I may. Standards, at least in my mind, and I could have it wrong, really set what the minimum requirement is. It sets a floor, maybe, okay, for which some may wish to do better than the floor, which is what the stars, in my own mind, tend to relate and suggest. And I guess part of my problem with the 5, I have a different problem with this is 5 stars. I think they should have 10 or maybe 20 or 30 or 50, but more than 5, because the 5 that they have now, I think, deal with crash severity. They've been in the crash mitigation business. The design has been focused on, okay, we're going to have crashes. Let's see how well we can survive them. And of course, one of the arguments that I guess I was pushing a number of years ago, or when we sort of started smart driving cars, is that now if you put some intelligence in the vehicle, the whole thing may be not crashing. In other words, things that would keep the car from crashing. And somehow they should be rated. They should be, start number 6, 7, 8, 9, or something like that, depending if, the whole thing can intervene. I mean, we sort of started down that road with lock brakes that really, I try to push the brake through the floor, and the thing comes back and says, "Hey, Alan, you're stupid. Come on, I know how to brake this thing. I'll take over and I'll pump the brakes. I won't let you lock the door." Or the traction control that was mandated in 2012 in all vehicles. They say that if I'm going around a bend too fast, man, and the whole thing says, "Phew, I'm taking over." It tweaks the steering. I don't know what the heck it tweaks. It keeps me from losing my butt, which is really good. And somehow some of these systems work better or worse than others. And as we've been seeing over the years lately, in terms of the automated emergency braking systems, the extent to which they work, don't work, whatever, and so on, and see, don't see.
Yeah, we covered that. We covered that extensively last time we talked on this.
Yeah, and we have covered it extensively. Yeah, but I mean, these are I mean, if you can be in the crash mitigation business, you can also be in the crash avoidance business, and maybe merge the two darn things and be in both the crash avoidance and crash mitigation business. But certainly before you had, the computer stuff and yeah, the only thing you could be is in the crash mitigation business. Airbags, crumple zones, boo, things that keep the engine from, taking out my legs, the steering column, from pone, the cigarette lighters, chung. I mean, 55 Chevy.
Can we get to your point? Was
yes,
a standard is the floor. That was
I don't know.
That's your point.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. That's just my brain, and I need to be educated.
Okay. So when they started this with saying that the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard was too lenient. It didn't give you enough information, the speed that they tested, because what they were doing was to see whether if you crashed at a certain speed, what was the likelihood that you were going to be killed in the car or severely injured. That was the point. Okay, now we start with that. If you're saying that we have a Federal Motor Vehicle Safety standard that doesn't really test whether you're going to be killed or injured because it's at too slow a speed, what is that really saying to you? What is that really? Is it saying, well, we want to get as many cars on the road as possible. We want to make this as easy as possible for you to put a car on the road. We don't really care if people die or get injured. You test it, and if it passes this little test that we have put out here, then it's okay to put the car on the road. Is that really what we want to be doing with a Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard? My point is no. Every car that goes on the road, if you want a minimum, make the minimum at least the safest as it possibly can be, and the speed at which they're testing is still relatively small. If they're not testing at 100 miles an hour. They're not testing at 65 miles an hour. They're testing at a fairly low speed, but it's high enough. It's higher than the Motor Vehicle Safety Standard to be able to give some results. So this, when you see the dummy crashing its head into the to the airbag, you know that something's happening in there. But if it's at the lower speed, so if the government says what our objective is to get as many cars on the road and have the cars as cheap as possible so that people can buy them, I can understand that. If you want to set that as the goal, and then we've got this other thing that's going on here. The other thing that's going on is that we want to actually tell you whether you're going to survive a crash. So we're going to get all the cars on the road, but we're going to tell you what car. So you can buy whatever X, Y, Z cars. And of course, they cost 10 times more than your little, Cinquecento. Because, sorry, they don't sell Cinquecentos anymore in the U.S. My point. That's my point. So
I wonder what that guy from the class of '55, what was his name, Nader? What did he say?
Well,
this is I get to Ralph Nader. I mean, he's in here because he was Joan Claybrook's ticket into Nizza. So she worked with him, and then he got things going, and everything with Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, Nizza, the whole thing. I've put in here the history, and I think it's worth reading the article just to get an understanding of what is Nizza, what is how did it all start, what is NCAP, how does it all fit together. And Ralph Nader deserves an enormous amount of credit for everything being put in here. But Joan Claybrook grew up in his kindergarten, and then she went into Nizza, and then she moved on. She didn't move very far because she worked in one of his companies, Public Citizen, from 1982 until 2009. And the reason I said that I was encouraged to look into this and begin writing it, because she's saying, Nizza's NCAP is no longer worth anything. And her sidekick, Jack Gillis, is saying the same thing. They don't really do enough. They don't test enough. Look at what's going on over there in Europe and in Japan and China. They're doing much more. The fact is that they're not. I mean, I don't know where they got this story from, but it's like we want to push them to do, we want to do more, put in more standards, well, what about the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards? What about type approval? What about all of these things that are over here? No, you're going to make this thing bigger and better. And so I said, that's how I started this, because she was criticizing her own child. I mean, she came up with this idea with Gillis. They only had a couple of years to do it, and then they left. But Jack Gillis left Nizza, and he took the car book with him. He's been publishing this information since he left. He's been putting together the book since he left Nizza, that we're getting and we're seeing this information in a published form. Now, Nizza is responsible for this. This is Nizza. It's not, nobody owns NCAP other than NHTSA in the United States. It's different in Europe. It's different in other places, but in the United States, NCAP is part and parcel of NHTSA. So whatever they do there inside NCAP belongs to NHTSA. Anything it's not sort of a private little operation moving off in the side. It's government.
But Michael,
Yeah.
but you are saying that it's good that NHTSA is going out there and doing the crash testing and providing the stars, right?
Well, I sort of wait a minute. I sort of said that. I said it's good. They're doing something that I've been saying they should be doing for all cars. They should be doing the equivalent of type approval. They should be doing the testing. Now, the fact that they are doing testing, but they're doing it with another set of standards, the NCAP standards. So I'm not saying that it's good that they're doing this. I'm saying that, the idea is good, but they should be using the same set of standards for all the cars in their NCAP testing.
But you asked the question, Michael, that why vehicles that don't get the top ratings, why are they allowed to be sold? You're not saying every car that's on the road should be able to meet the what would we call it, the 5-star rating, or what are we saying here?
Yes, we are. What I'm saying is if a car doesn't meet the requirements which have been set up as a minimum to provide safe operation for people, to the sort of you're not going to die in a crash, or at least you have to be traveling at a much higher rate than our little speed limit here in order to be severely injured. If you travel at a reasonable speed, and that speed is what we're testing the cars at, that's in NCAP. But in the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standard, it's lower. And then what they've said is that we've tested this and we found that lower speed doesn't provide any useful information about the severity of your injury or the potential for death because it's too low. So increase the speed as part of the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. And if you say, well, that's, in other words, if you do that, then every car will get 5 stars. Well, okay. Is 5 stars the minimum for a car to go onto the road? Fine. Then set that at 0. And then you can keep going. You can test the car at 60 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, 200 miles, whatever you want to do. And say if you're traveling at what does Elon Musk call it? The speed when you're going to really go, it's going to be really, really fast, because you can go really, really fast in one of his cars. And if you drive that fast, then you get 5, and you survive a crash, then you get 5 stars.
What about Alan's point of extending this beyond what happens when it does crash to actually a rating of how good a vehicle is in preventing that crash from happening?
There's no reason that's already included in NCAP. NCAP in Europe that was one of the things that they were referring to. NCAP in Europe includes some of this information. It's information. Your car has this, so you get an extra point. Your car has that, you get an extra point. Now you want to test it. They're absolutely your test. And by the way, to go back to last month's article where I said this is being done now in the UN operation WP29. This is where they're actually doing it. They're writing the specifications. Those specifications are being put into type approval, and eventually they'll be put into FMVSS. Those requirements are being written in order to go in there, in order to be able to use this framework, these specifications, to be able to test the cars, to say these cars pass the test. And if they don't pass, then, yes.
That would make an interesting video showing the crash dummy coming up to the wall and the vehicle stops. There's no crash, and the dummy smiles.
Fred, what, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, a Subaru did a commercial that basically was just so good, because it was one of these crash testing facilities, and you had the dummies in the car, and then you had the dummy's family outside of the car watching the poor dummy about to go, and as the car starts going down there, the poor family looks at, they change the facial expression on the poor dummy's family, like they're going to lose its father and so on. And as the thing approaches, and and they're like, and then all of a sudden eyesight comes in, and they come in and they say, wouldn't it have been better if we wouldn't have crashed? Boo, super eyesight. Da, 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 da. I mean, I just thought that was one of the most wonderful commercials. You'll have to play it. Well, I'll give it to you.
It's terrific.
It's terrific because in a sense, that's when we look at all this technology that we talk about, moving people and so on and so forth. The whole opportunity to be able to avoid a crash and really get, yes, we want to deal with, there's a crash, absolutely survive the sucker. Yes, crash mitigation. But all of a sudden, we may have various tools to say that my goodness, we can actually prevent these things with some of this technology that's out there, and that's probably the really valuable piece out of this thing. So, getting that in there is, and given the information and that is now available real time in vehicles, and the opportunity to have computers sit there and control them, is there the probability that you crash is not there, and the probability that you misbehave in using these vehicles, I mean, to me, that's really where the next step of FMCSA or any of these things should go, is come on, allowing somebody. Apparently, I'm playing golf yesterday with Ishmael, my friend, who was in New York the day before. He tells me that he's on 34th Street, and all of a sudden this Tesla comes roaring down the street at who knows what speed, certainly much greater than 25 miles an hour. Plows into a UPS truck, flies up in the air, comes down, blah blah blah, da da da. They have to cut the person out of the vehicle and so on, of which the person is essentially unheard, I think, because of course, the crash safety standards. But my goodness, why was that vehicle ever allowed to travel at that speed? I mean, the vehicle knows that it is going that fast. It knows where it is on 34th Street or whatever it was in Manhattan. Cut it out. The darn thing in there should have said, no, you're not allowed to go that fast. Cut back on the electricity going to that motor.
There's nothing
whether
preventing,
it was a Tesla or not a Tesla, in some sense doesn't matter, but it does matter here because it's a Tesla, and it knows it knows.
Yeah,
and the problem is it's not doing anything about it.
There's nothing preventing NHTSA from doing exactly what's being done in Europe, which is putting on, essentially saying the car can't travel more than the speed limit. I mean, we have that in Europe now. It's a regulation. So the car, we can do that. There's nothing preventing that. And it could be put into the federal motor vehicle safety standards in exactly the same way as other things are put in there. And it becomes part of the certification and type approval, and it's there. What's preventing it? It's the same thing preventing people, the Congress of the United States, from preventing guns. We can get into a whole other kind of discussion here. But it's very similar.
It's exactly the same. I agree with you. Okay, we can do this. The public here apparently doesn't want it because we want to be free. Oh, we want to be free to just behave like total idiots. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep writing about these kinds of things, and until somebody decides to turn off my printer ink.
A great
yeah, I
assessment
mean,
as always, Michael. Terrific.
as I also like to say along these things, we always talk about 90% of the crashes are caused by or have a human involvement. I mean, first of all, these things that it's human misbehavior and it's not human involvement. It's because, it allowed us to, we were drinking and allowed us to drive it. We were going too fast. We weren't paying attention. We had all these things in the vehicle and we cut the wires and we went around it and we hung a Coke can from the steering wheel to make it think that my hands were on it, or who knows what all the other junk, or we put a face up in front of the camera that's supposed to see whether or not your eyes are on there. And we gamed it and all this, look at how cool we are. And geez, I mean, we were able to trick it. My goodness. Give me a star and give me 15 seconds of fame on the inner tubes. I mean, it's like crazy. It's crazy. And then what do we get? We get what happened in Texas and what happened in Buffalo. Okay, that's where we live. Great.
Well, touching on a couple of other headlines from the Dispatcher.
Yeah, we need to move on from that one, right, Fred? Because
we can stay on this one for the next 5 years and nothing will change.
It's not pretty at all. And and I guess Biden said it, we better start getting some backbone at some point, deal with some of these things. We're enough's enough.
Well, in the Dispatcher, Michael, you talk about the Justice Department's Antitrust Division targeting Google Maps. Tell us about this.
It really does feel like they've got too many people and too much money to play with. What I've tried to do here is to put this into perspective. What are they really trying to do? What is it? Is it like, well, they're doing something against Google in Europe. We need to be doing something here. We need to show them who's the boss. So they've picked on Google Maps. Now, I mean, I picked on NCAP, and you can say the same thing about Google Maps. Everybody uses it. Everybody thinks that they're terrific. Whether or not they are is really not really relevant. But the fact is that they're trying to say that if a car company, let's say like Volvo, decides to put Google Maps in their cars and decides to have all of the interfaces and all of the Google structure around it, that they're preventing competition. They're inhibiting competition by doing that. And what I say is, if a company decides to use Google Maps instead of using maps that have been made for navigation purposes,
ALK maps.
Or, let's just say ALK maps. That's a decision that they've made. If a company decides, like Volvo, that they're going to have the Google interface in their car for everything, for doing their search, and et cetera, they've made that decision. Why should the government have anything to say about that? I'm not going to buy a car that uses Google Maps because I don't do anything Google. That's my preference. That's what I've decided. So if I can't buy a car, if the car that I want to buy happens to have the entire infotainment system built around Google, I say, I'm sorry, but I don't buy this car. I go to another. So, and I can do that. What's the point of the government saying to me or to anyone, you have to allow competition inside your car if you've chosen? No, but that's nobody's business but mine or the person who's putting out this. It's like the example that I've used is, if I've paid for a set of programs and that set of programs doesn't include something which the government might think that's really important, like NFL football. Well, should I be forced to buy the NFL football or the channel that has that? Or should the channel that I buy be forced to buy NFL football so that I can look at it? This is the kind of thing that the government should really not have anything to say about. There are better things for the Department of Justice to be doing than looking at Google Maps in cars. That's my point.
Another quick headline reads, "Honey, can you pump my gas one last time?" This is the question of what's going on in New Jersey. Should the ban
this
be
like,
lifted on self-service gas pumps?
The only thing that I can say, my qualification for writing this article, I mean, both of you live in New Jersey. The qualification that I have is that I lived there for 7 years. And during that time, the gas was pumped like every place else by experts, by people who really knew how to pump gas. They really knew, when they said, "Can we check your oil? Can they want to top it up? Can we check the air pressure on your tires?" So, here we are. New Jersey is the last of the Mohicans. So the last of the states where, except for a part of Oregon, it's the last state where you can't pump, where you're not allowed to get out of your car and pump the gas yourself. There has to be an attendant there. And funnily enough, just before I wrote this article, I happened to be in New Jersey. And I've got a picture of me sitting in my car, pointing my telephone out the window with my finger stuck down in the lower left-hand corner, and seeing the attendant, looking off in the distance while there's this line connecting into my car, which he has nothing to do with. He's just staring out into space in Bernardsville, New Jersey, while the car is being pumped with gas by this really nice little thing. I found out later that I had really gotten taken here. I don't know if they just, the guy gets off the interstate and pulls into Bernardsville, and the first place he gets to, he charged me an extra $1 per gallon for gas there. But yeah, so, and what do you think? Is it likely that it's going to pass, or do you think that you're going to be stuck having to have attendance for the rest?
The Gasoline Retailers Federation, I think it's called, in New Jersey, had a lot of political clout for many years. I don't know if that still exists, but still can't pump your own gas here. So
no,
I guess,
doesn't look like it's going to pass.
Oh man, I while ago I was in Pennsylvania and I pulled into a gas station, and nobody came out to pump my gas. So I figured the gas station was closed. So I left and went down the gas station down the street. I didn't realize I was supposed to pump my own gas. Oh my goodness.
Well, New Jersey is probably the only state, I suppose.
I look back and, there's a guy that pulled in behind me and he's there pumping his own gas. And I said, oh my goodness.
How do I do this?
What has happened to my brain?
Well, if people haven't left the state and they do leave the state, they may not know how to do it. So
they don't.
Luckily, I don't know if this was COVID that I hadn't left the state or whatever. I mean, or it was a senior moment, a really senior moment.
We will be back, but this is a good time to remind you about our sponsor, the Smart ETFs, Smart Transportation and Technology ETF, symbol MOTO. To get more info, head to motoetf.com. On the website, look for the white paper called The Smart Transportation Revolution. It's under the Insights and News tab. Some great information there that can help you make informed decisions about investing. ETFs, you may know, can be a smart way to spread risk with investments, maybe focus on a particular category of stocks. The website again is motoetf.com. We're back with more of Smart Driving Cars and our guest, Michael Sena. Alan, a couple of headlines to get to. Pony AI has lost its permit to test autonomous vehicles with a safety driver in California. That for allegedly failing to monitor the driving records of the people they hired as drivers.
Yep, I guess, California has regulations here and you better follow them. And again, especially in the testing, you should have trained people in there to oversee this. They're great. I'm proud of you. Way to go, Bernard.
We'll be seeing him soon, won't we?
We'll be seeing him soon.
Okay. Elon Musk once again saying that by this time next year, Tesla will have vehicles able to drive themselves without human supervision. We've kind of heard this before, I think, from
Yeah,
him.
we've
And
heard it before, and it won't happen. And I mean, what a shame. I mean, Elon. I'm a big fan of Elon, but but he is his own worst enemy. I know I'm my own worst enemy. He is his own worst enemy. I mean, why bother saying that? I mean, really? I mean, is it just to pump up the stock price or what? I mean, cut it out. You know, first of all, for him to do that, I keep saying that is, he has to then say, if there's a crash, I'm the one that's responsible. I'm taking care of everything. I'll fix it. I'll make everybody good. It's on me. Now, I haven't heard him say that. As soon as he says, hey, yes, my cars will drive themselves, and if anything happens, it's on me. I'll take care of you. I'll be there. I'll go to your funeral. I'll do all that stuff. I'll make your kids whole and so on, make sure they get a Princeton education and so on and so forth. Great. But until he says that along with his cars, whatever, cut it out.
Michael, I know
Yeah,
you're probably biting your tongue, but
no, those cars shouldn't be allowed on the road. They shouldn't be allowed to be selling this so-called full driving, whatever it is. They should not be allowed to sell autopilot. It should just not be allowed. It should turn off automatically as you get from someplace where it potentially could work, like on a highway, although we know it doesn't work on highways either. But certainly shouldn't be allowed to be used in anything resembling a residential area, which of course it is. That's it. And the laws are there. It's not like the laws aren't there. I've said this. I've written about this. I've pointed to the laws. It's not as if they're not there. They're just not being enforced. For some reason, he's been able to cow the authorities, state authorities and federal authorities, into believing that his cars are not, quote, autonomous, because he tells everybody they have to keep their hands on the wheel and their eyes on the road. Even though, wink, wink, nope, you don't have to, because otherwise, why would you pay $12,000 for this piece of junk? So it should not be allowed to happen. End of story. It's the government's fault as much as it is Elon Musk's fault.
I mean, I'm going to get myself in trouble here by jumping in because I'm, again, my own worst enemy. But one of my former students just came back for reunions and stayed at the house here and drove his brand new Model S Tesla from Chicago to Princeton, and of course was dying to take me for a ride, and I was dying to go. And I went to brand new Model S, and with I guess the latest and greatest or whatever. When this thing is in whatever auto drive mode, whatever you want to call it, there are two basic states: either a car following or a car leading. If you're in a car following state, it means that you're following a car. And as we know, just by human practices, if we follow somebody, it's a pretty easy thing to do. Okay. And so, you just follow it. If the thing made it through whatever it was trying to go through, hey, you just follow in behind. The control systems for doing that are really straightforward, really easy, no problem. Wonderful. When you're leading, it's a whole different story because you're not following anybody, just like leading in anything else. It's tough to lead because to lead, you have to be able to see what's ahead and deal with it. And the key thing when you're leading is to not run into things. Okay. And the most difficult thing to not run into things are stationary objects. because you have to see them and you'd better stop. Because the car in front of you didn't all go through it. You can just go back. The car in front of you stops because of it. As it slows down, you slow down, you stop. Beautiful. Intelligent cruise control, just beautiful. When you're leading, you have to see it. The Tesla disregards stationary objects ahead, even today. Because as we're going down the road, there's roads around here. Hey, it's not spring. There are tree canopies with leaves. Now, whether or not you're using radar, LiDAR, SCHMIDAR, vision, who knows what, you see these things. And in fact, when you range them and so on, your approach velocity is in fact your velocity. Approach speed, single dimension, not, multiple dimension velocity. And these things, we're going down the road, we're passing under canopies of trees. Now, I don't believe that in the computation stack that's going on there, it says, oh, there's a stationary object ahead. Oh, but I can pass underneath it. I'm good. I think it disregards them. And then I went out hunting. We went out hunting for an overpass. Around here in Princeton, there, like locals, there aren't too many overpasses. We're all like flat people, whatever. But we went out in Hopewell and we found one. Okay. And I expected as we approached that, it would pop on this huge screen that's in there. Like it shows you the traffic light that it sees, and it shows you the stop sign that it sees, and it shows you the speed limit signs that it sees. It didn't show me the overpass. Why not? Why wouldn't that be displayed? And why wouldn't it be displayed within a little distance thing that says 13 feet 6 inches? Because it doesn't know. It disregards it. I bet. I'm almost willing to bet the ranch on it. Elon, prove me wrong. Show me the code. Show me that, in fact, you see it. Show me that you compute that. And show me that you said, hey, yeah, you can pass underneath it. And why didn't you do it when Joshua Brown was driving down the road in Florida and it approached that truck? And why didn't you say, hey, no, you can't pass underneath that, Joshua. I'm hitting the brakes. End of story.
And owners should be aware of the limitations, I suppose. If
Absolutely, absolutely, it doesn't see it. And what happens if there was a truck parked in the lane ahead, stopped underneath that, and we came around the corner and all of a sudden saw that, or the car in front of us moved out of the way and then we saw it, as it's done for how many emergency vehicles? It's not that it didn't see the flashing lights. It all of a sudden went from car follower to car leader mode, object stationary ahead. Don't expect that. There's never a stationary object. We can always pass underneath it. Forget about it. I think that's the code. That's the algorithm. That's the AI. I think I got in trouble.
Well,
I lost the ranch. I just lost the ranch.
He's invited to join us. And
He's invited to join us.
Yeah, I think you're safe.
Show me, or let the guys who write your code tell me. I'm willing to sit there and look at the code.
Moving on to another headline quickly. South Korean automaker Hyundai has announced it will spend $5 billion with a B in the U.S. on developing mobility solutions such as autonomous driving and robotics. Just another automaker, I guess, is deciding to put their money.
I guess so. The question is, such as, when you list a bunch of things and you take the 5 billion, then you have to decide which part of the 5 billion goes on what. And then you find out most of the 5 billion is going on a big screen that's going to allow you to play video games as you're going down the New Jersey Turnpike, and you say, oh my goodness, Sorry, but whatever. I guess. I don't know. Good. Thank you. Great, Honda. I spend it here. We need the money.
The Smart Driving Car Summit. We're getting to that now again, Alan. Coming up, it's a week away, and things are really moving fast here.
Oh, is it a week away?
It's a week away.
A week away. Yes, it is a week away. Things are moving fast. I am so proud of how it's coming together, if I may say so myself. I've had my doubts. Fred, we and Michael, we've tried to get people and so on to participate. We have some excellent people that are going to be here, and I think we're just going to have really good discussions among people who really want to try to make things happen. And I think we've made it clear that what we're interested in is a safe, equitable, affordable, sustainable, high quality mobility for all. That's the focus. That's the main focus. We are also interested in looking at all the ADAS things and making sure that the cars are indeed safe. And if the cars are going to do things for us, they do it safely and so on and so forth. So the cars that we continue to buy and make sure that all that is, but it's really good. Yesterday, I mean, we even got a council person from Chandler to agree to come to Princeton and tell us really what went on and what's going on in Chandler and how that's going in terms of trying to provide mobility for all and how well it does the safe, the equitable, the affordable, the sustainable, the high quality in Chandler, because they're first. So we're going to be able to hear, here we're trying to be second or third or whatever, but we're really trying to do it in an environment where we think that it will deliver real value to people. Now, to make that happen and allow that to happen and so on, as we're finding, is absolutely non-trivial, but looks like we have everybody lined up. May Mobility is going to bring their vehicle, or at least the precursor to their vehicles that could do a Trenton Moves. We're going to parade it around. Get her. Turns out in Mercer County, I think since the dawn of man, there have been three, as I like to call them, Trenton makes wannabes, or that vehicles that could possibly become driverless ever be in Mercer County. I only 4 in the whole state, but 3 in Mercer County. My 2 from the 2005 and 2007 DARPA and Ollie that we brought here at the 3rd summit that ran around the football stadium. That's all. I mean, in California, I guess they run up and down all the streets. In Arizona, they're everywhere. And in Miami, you see Fords all over the place. I mean, but poor us here in Jersey, I don't know. I guess we're the afterthought of the world. Yet we have 9 million people and basically 30 million person trips a day. Substantial portion of which could be improved, and even more of those improve people's lives here in Jersey. So we think we have a market for this technology. And so finally, we have some people coming. So May Mobility is bringing a vehicle. We're going to show it around, and maybe GM Cruise is also bringing a vehicle. We haven't gotten final whether they are or they aren't. If they are, man, we're gonna take it around the county. Have a little pre-summit tour.
And we've talked about Trenton very often, but this is much more than just Trenton. Obviously, this is a movement, so to speak.
The idea is to do a moves movement, and basically on Saturday we're going to have the roundtables that do that. I mean, the people, we're going to have mayors from Mercer County at 9 o'clock discussing how do we take a successful Trenton Moves and move it and grow it and throughout Mercer County, because scale is everything on this. It grows, it's Laudner's law. It's at least as the square of the size of the operational design domain, the value proposition of these things. So if not more. And so, and then after that, we're gonna have mayors from around the state and even beyond the state.
Maybe Scranton.
Yeah, maybe Scranton.
And and we're trying to get the mayor of Scranton. Michael's supposed to deliver us the mayor of Scranton, and maybe I don't know. I've even invited the mayor of Jerusalem to come in. I don't know. It's a hall, and who knows? But hey, as I said, we're going to have a council person from Chandler here. So who knows who else is going to show up here to say, how do we then take the Trenton Mercer County moves and replicate it throughout the state? Okay, so that we then, again, grow this thing at least as square. And then of course, then we're going to have a halftime show. Because it's like, make this like a basketball game or something. That was the first half. The halftime show is going to be the Trenton Circus Squad, and they're a bunch of kids, high school kids, and who this friend of mine, his neighbor, has put together in terms of training them in circus acts, and they're really great. So we'll have a little halftime show, and then the second half is going to be Robert Hampshire from USDOT, who heads up the research and development arm of USDOT, and basically, I think he's going to talk about how do we take a New Jersey moves and then replicate that throughout the country, and really massively scale this thing. So if to me that's the opportunity here, the opportunity to provide safe, equitable, affordable on the production side, so that in fact it doesn't require very much. You can even make money off of it. Even you've got to make money. There's been 200 billion invested in this. Hyundai is going to come in here and invest money in it. It better make, you invest to make money. Okay, so it has to make money, sustainable, high quality. Of course, it's got to be high quality. Otherwise, none of us are going to use it. I mean, we wouldn't be buying cars unless they gave us high quality mobility. Okay, we do for those of us that can afford it. Well, maybe, make this affordable and so on. Mobility, how to get from A to B. Why do you want to go to B? Because, the only reason to travel, it's the first thing I say in my class. There's only one reason. I tell them the only reason you're here in my class is because you thought this was the best place for you to be at this time. That's what we do when we go someplace. In our own minds, for whatever reasons we have, we've decided that as far as we're concerned, this is where we want to be. Otherwise, we would have been somewhere else. Otherwise, we would have done something else. Otherwise, we would have stayed in bed. So in fact, the act of going someplace really enhances personal value, quality, interest. That's why we do it. Otherwise, we wouldn't go.
The place to go for
we're all
more
rational. I mean, I
Right.
argue we are all rational. From our own rationality and vive la différence, we're supposed to now, tolerate differences of thought. Absolutely. That's why we do things. We do things because we want to. Otherwise, we wouldn't have. Now, we might say we were forced to, but, forced to ended up saying, hey, this is what I want to. Sorry, I don't know.
Well, we're going to suggest someplace for people to go, and that's cartsmobility.com for more information and the agenda, and you can register through there too.
Yeah, well, just to warn anybody who comes has to register because there are strict COVID requirements at Princeton, with respect to being vaccinated and the testing that one isn't sick. We're not out there requiring testing, but you have to be vaccinated and you have to have proof for it. And you have to, otherwise we can't let you in the building. Okay, so, that's just it's a necessary requirement.
Absolutely. The site again, cartsmobility.com. We want to thank Michael Sena for spending time with us once again. Terrific, as always, Michael, and great insights.
My pleasure. It's always a pleasure being with you.
Yeah, Michael, you were just on. Have we gone through, how fast did this month go by? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it seems like, it really does seem like, and when I was on last time, I was in the US.
Yeah. Yes. And you visited me. It was so nice to have you visit me.
It was great.
Thank you.
I got to see that train in person.
The website for the dispatcher and more is Michael L. Sena, SENA.com. Thank you to our sponsor, the Smart ETFs, Smart Transportation and Technology ETF. The ticker symbol for the ETF again is MOTO, and more info is available at motoetf.com. Technical support is provided by CARTS, the Corporation for Automated Road Transportation Safety, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to safe and high-quality mobility for all. You can find us at smartdrivingcar.com, also on Anchor FM, Spotify, TuneIn, Apple, Google, Spreaker. I could go on and on, wherever you get podcasts from. Smart speakers can play us too. You can find my tech reports at techstination.com. I'm Fred Fishkin along with Alain Kornhauser. Thank you for listening or watching. Please stay safe.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.